Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all my friends and our lecturer, Sir Ahmad Bukhari bin Muhammad Yassin. Today, our group would like to talk about the third assignment, which is IOI Properties and Sunway Group. Firstly, I would like to introduce our member. My name is Nurul Dania binti Zarfazli. Secondly is Aisyah Syafiqah binti Jamaluddin. Then Nur Qurratu Aina binti Syahrul Razi. And the last is Muhammad Amir Ashraf bin Syahriman.
Our future is your tomorrow. Our legacy is what drives us to where we are today. The IOI Properties Group Berhad of today has been built on a strong foundation. Brick upon brick, we laid the groundwork, becoming an established township developer with a reputable track record spanning over 3 decades. We are proud of this legacy. We create integrated, well-planned, highly accessible, sustainable townships in high-growth areas. We build and manage our own sustainable property investment assets, state-of-the-art, Grade A offices, world-class hotels delivering extraordinary experiences of discovery, lifestyle, and memorable moments. Award-winning retail malls offering a one-stop destination of indulgence, excitement, and energy that ignites the senses. Premier golf courses consistently ranked among the best. Making our mark abroad with notable presence in Singapore and Xiamen, China. Integrating sustainability into our business strategies, creating positive impacts to the economy, society, and environment. In our journey of sustainability, we embrace technology, enabling vibrant urban energy to thrive in harmony with nature. We invent spaces for stay, work, and play. We create a sustainable future. Build your future with us.
IOI Property Group's Berhad, which is IIPG, is one of the leading property developers in Malaysia and recipient of multiple awards. The property development, property investment, and hotel and leisure industries are the group's three primary business segments in Malaysia, Singapore, and Xiamen, which is in China, respectively is PRC. IOIC is a company that is vertically integrated and it's involved in the plantation and manufacturing industries that are based on resources. One of the most significant plantation owners in the business, this company controls more than 230,000 hectares of land in Malaysia and Indonesia, placing it among the top plantation owners in the sector. IOIC is highly acknowledged among the most effective major plantation owners as having one of the finest oil yields in the industry due to its hands-on management style and exceptional agronomic approaches. This is because IOIC produces one of the best oil yields in the company. Refineries, oleochemicals, and specialty oils and fats are the three sub-industries that make up the resource-based manufacturing sector of the economy. In order to meet the requirement of its international customers, the company operates production facilities in the country of Malaysia, the Netherlands, the United States of America, Canada, Germany, and China. More than 85 countries around the world are currently importing its downstream products, while IIPG invests in property developments in Malaysia, Singapore, and China. The property investment arm in Malaysia owns and runs retail malls, office buildings, hotels, and golf courses. IPG also invests in property developments in China.
Liquidity ratio measures a company's ability to pay debt obligation and in margins of safety through the calculation of metrics including the current ratio and the quick ratio. The current ratio measures a company's ability to pay off its current liabilities, payable within 1 year, with its total current assets such as cash, account receivable, and inventories. Based on the graph, the amount of current ratio in 2021 reached the highest ratio at 3.11 and the lowest is in 2017, which is 1.05. A higher current ratio is preferable because it indicates that the company can pay its short-term liabilities efficiently and may indicate that the company is not utilizing its current asset efficiently. The higher the ratio, the better your chance of paying off your debts. If your current ratio is low, it indicates that you will have difficulty paying your current debts and liabilities. A current ratio of 2 or higher is generally considered good and anything less than 2 is cause for concern. As a result, IOI Properties Group has a positive current ratio, as overall the current ratio is exceed 2. Next is the quick ratio. The quick ratio measures a company's ability to meet its short-term obligation with its most liquid asset and therefore excluded inventories from its current asset. Based on the graph, the amount of current ratio in 2019 reached the highest ratio, 2.14, and the lowest is in 2017, which is 0.58. A higher quick ratio is preferable because it indicates that the company can pay its short-term liabilities efficiently and may indicate that the company is not utilizing its current asset efficiently. As a result, an investor should aim for a ratio that is greater than or equal to 1. A ratio of 1 or more shows your company has enough liquid asset to meet its short-term obligation. As a result, IOI Properties Group has a positive quick ratio, as overall the quick ratio is exceed 1. A solvency ratio is a key metric used by prospective business lenders to assess an enterprise's ability to meet its long-term debt obligation. A solvency ratio determines whether a company's cash flow is sufficient to cover its long-term liabilities and thus serve as a measure of its financial health. I would like to go over the liabilities to asset debt ratio and debt to equity ratio. The liabilities to asset ratio measure the proportion of a company's assets that are financed by debt. According to the graph above, IOI Properties Group's liabilities to asset ratio is decreasing year by year from 2017 to 2021. Nonetheless, the liability to asset ratio in 2021 reached the lowest ratio at 41.01%, while in 2017 has the highest ratio, 45.05%. Therefore, it's indicating that if the ratio is less than 50%, the majority of the company's assets are financed through equity. If the ratio exceeds 50%, the majority of the company's assets are financed through debt. The lower the ratio, the lower the risk associated with the company's operation. As a result, IOI Properties Group has a positive current ratio, as overall the liabilities to asset ratio is not exceed 50%. The debt to equity ratio is a financial ratio indicating the relative proportion of shareholders' equity and debt used to finance a company's asset. According to the graph, for the past 5 years, IOI Properties Group debt to equity ratio is decreasing. Nonetheless, the debt to equity ratio in 2021 reached the lowest ratio at 69.54%, while in 2017, 81.70%. Therefore, it indicates that a higher debt to equity ratio indicates that a company has higher debt, while to lower debt to equity ratio signals fewer debt. Generally, a good debt to equity ratio is less than 100%, while too risky debt to equity is greater than 200%. As a result, IOI Properties Group has a positive debt to equity ratio, as overall the debt to equity ratio is not exceed 100%.
Profitability ratio are a type of financial indicator used to evaluate a company's profitability in relation to its revenue, operation expenses, balance sheet assets, and shareholders' equity as of a single moment in time. As we can see on the graph, it shows that the present ratio peaked in 2017 at 3.70% and is expected to fall to its lowest 1.50% in 2020. If a company has a high return on investment, then it is successful because it can generate more profit with the same amount of capital. A higher return on assets, which is ROA, indicates greater asset efficiency. If a company's ROA is low, it signifies it could do a better job of managing its financial sheet in order to maximize earning. If the company's current ratio is between 1.2 and 2, it suggests its short-term assets and 2 times larger than its short-term liability. Therefore, IOI Properties Group current ratio is greater than 2, indicating a good liquidity position. Return on equity, also known as ROE, is a measure of a company's financial performance that is determined by dividing net income by the total amount of stock held by shareholders. According to the graph, the quantity of current ratio in 2017 reached its peak level 6.74% and at the lowest, which is 1.99%, will not be reached until 2020. It is to a company's advantage to have a high return on equity percent. When the proportion is larger, it shows that a corporation is more successful at generating profits from the assets it already possesses. In similar vein, a company that over the course of its existence shows rises in its ROE is almost certainly becoming more effective. What does a healthy return on equity look like? Although the average ratio, as well as those that are deemed good and poor, can vary greatly from sector to sector. A return on equity ratio of 50% to 20% is typically considerable to be desirable. However, this can vary significantly depending on the industry. If the ratio were 5%, then it would be deemed to be low. As a consequence of this, II Property Group has a low ratio given that the profitability as a whole is greater than 1. The net profit margin, often known as the net margin, is a measurement of the amount of net income or profit generated as a percentage of total revenue. It is the proportion of an organization's or business segment's net profit to its total revenue. According to the graph, the quantity of current ratio in 2019 will reach its greatest ratio ever, which is 36.29%. The ratio will be at its lowest in 2018 when it will be 15%. When a company has a large net profit margin, it indicates that the company is able to keep its costs under control and or sell its products or services at prices that are much higher than this cost. If a corporation has a low net profit margin, this indicates that they have an inefficient cost structure and or weak pricing techniques. The profit margin ratio should be used by investors as an overall measure of the performance of the company profitability, and investors should begin further in-depth investigation into the source of an increase or drop in the company's profitability as appropriate. As a consequence of this, II Property Group possesses a positive current ratio for profitability, given that the entire profitability is greater than 10%.
Next, I would like to explain details about horizontal analysis of IOI properties. Horizontal analysis is a financial analysis technique used to evaluate a company's performance over time. By comparing prior period financial results with more current financial results, a company is better able to spot the direction of change in account balance and the magnitude in which that change has occurred. Horizontal analysis can also be used to benchmark a company with competitors in the same industry. Let's jump into the first item noted in horizontal analysis, which is asset. As we can see, the total period of time taken in IOI properties are 5 years, which is started in 2017 until 2021. During the time period, the lowest amount recorded are in 2018, which is only negative 892,563, and the highest are in 2017, where our total amount of assets are 10 million. The percentage change is calculated by first dividing the ringgit change between the comparison year and the base year by the line item value in the base year, then multiplying the quotient by 100. In 2018, negative 2.66% are the lowest value, while 47.69 in 2017 are the highest. Next is liabilities. Using the same formula as the asset, the total liabilities in 2018 are the lowest and 2017 are the highest, which is negative 863,000 and 831,1338 respectively. The percentage amount in 2018 is negative 5.71% and 2017 are 122.32%. Lastly is equity, where the highest total equity and liabilities and the total percentage recorded are in 2017, where the amount is 10 million and 47.28% respectively. Meanwhile, the lowest value recorded is in 2018, which the total equity value is negative 875,378 and its percentage is negative 2.61%. After that is vertical analysis. Vertical analysis is a method of financial statement analysis in which each line item is listed as a percentage of a base figure within the statement. Vertical analysis makes it much easier to compare because it shows clearly the proportion of account balance in company. It also makes it easier to compare previous period for time series analysis in which quarterly and annual figures are compared over a number of years in order to gain a picture of whether performance metrics are improving or vice versa. vertical analysis is focused on the relationship between the numbers in a single reporting period or one moment in time. Next, let's go through the vertical analysis of IOI properties. First of all, in order to get the value of vertical analysis, we must identify items and values recorded in IOI's income statement. IOI properties income statement growth rate are from 2017 until 2021. Then, the calculation of growth rate of each of the line item concerning the previous year are taken. When a vertical analysis is done on an income statement, it will show the top line sales number as 100%. And every other account will show as a percentage of the total sales number. Based on comprehensive income statement, over the past 5 years, IOI Properties company sales have gone smooth until year 2, where the value dropped periodically, which also influenced the value of net income. This value don't appear large enough to account for the decline in net income. In order to see what's happening, vertical analyses are taken. For every items in the income statement, the total value then be divided by the total of company sales for that current year. By doing this, it will build a new income statement that shows each account as a percentage of the sales for that year. Other operating income in IOI properties in year 5, we divide the values 64711 with revenue for that year to 2 million. With that result, 2.60% will appear on the vertical analysis table beside other operating income for year 5.
SWOT analysis of IOI properties. First is strength, maintaining strong financial performance through the year. Strong financial performance in IOI properties become a strength because it contributes the majority of the company's income. The gradual increase in occupancy and rental rate for the majority of IOI properties Berhad investment properties improve financial performance. Furthermore, as a large developer with multiple active township developments, we are able to offer a diverse range of product mix to cater the various market segments ranging from low to mid to the high end. This strategy provides us with flexibility and the advantage of being able to launch our products when the market is more favorable, resulting in strong financial performance. Next, weaknesses. Decreasing in Malaysia economy. IOI properties face some problem in their Malaysian economy instead of Singapore and Xiamen. The Malaysian economy expanded of IOI properties decreased from 5.4% to 4.5% in the second quarter of 2018. This was due to supply disruption in the mining industry, supply constraints, and unfavorable weather conditions. These symptoms reduced agricultural output. Instead, private consumption increased by 8% as wages and employment continued to rise. The construction sector grew at a moderate pace, aided by growth in the civil engineering subsector from transportation, petrochemical, and power plant projects, while the residential and non-residential subsectors reflect a soft market sentiment. Aside from that, the property development sector has faced uncertainties on several fronts, owing to stringent bank lending policies, affordability issue, and a general lack of confidence in the property market. Opportunities. Attract interest of consumers to conserving urban biodiversity. IOI Properties Berhad is dedicated preserving the urban biodiversity of their township and surrounding area by providing urban park and landscaping. Pocket parks and town parks provide habitat for many flora and fauna by regulating temperature, improving air quality, reducing surface runoff, producing oxygen, and allowing carbon sequestration. Some International Union for Conservation of Nature (IUCN) lists endangered or vulnerable species, including 4 native species, has been included in the landscaping of the township or within the urban parks as part of plant species conservation efforts. The mature Bandar Puteri Town Park, located on IOI Properties Group signature Bandar Puteri Puchong Township Development, has a thriving ecosystem that supports both aquatic and terrestrial life forms. It's a great place for local communities and nature organizations to do things like bird watching, insect sport, and herping. The absence of pesticides and chemical fertilizers in the town park has ensured that the rich biodiversity of the park is protected and preserved amidst human activity. Lastly, trades, emerging competitor in the same industry. The property development industry in Malaysia is at a decisive competitive advantage due to the presence of numerous major players such as Samdabri Properties, SP Setia, EcoWorld, Masing, IJM, and Gamuda Land. These businesses are also involved in property development. The market environment for office leasing, the growing prominence of online retailing, securing land bank, the supply of raw materials, labor, and even potential buyers all contribute to the competition. Profit margins will suffer if developers do not pass on increased land acquisition, labor, and raw material costs to buyers in the form of higher property sale price.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Kurato Aina binti Shahrazi. I want to present about the latest info for IOI Properties Group. IOI Properties Group is a successful real estate development company that has been in business for more than 4 decades. The three main parts of IOI Properties Group business are real estate development, real estate investment, and hospitality and leisure. More than 6 awards given to IOI Properties Group in 2022. This shows how successful their company was indeed. This also doesn't mean that there are no problems with this company. There are 2 new things that I want to point out here. The first is that IOI Properties Group expect to keep getting buyers even though sales were slower in the 3rd quarter. The second is IOI Properties Group delivers a sustained and resilient recovery. The COVID-19 pandemic, which hit the country in early 2020, would be to bear responsibility for both of these problems. IOI Properties Group said that its net profit for the 3rd quarter went down because its property development work in Malaysia and China had to stop. The IOI Properties Group is sure that the economy will slowly get better after the movement control order. Buyers will continue to be interested in its project in strategic place around Malaysia. The IOI Properties Group's net profit for the quarter that ended on March 31 dropped by 63.35% from 194.7 million ringgit Malaysia the year before to 71.36 million ringgit Malaysia. The IOI Properties Group's exchange filing shows that quarterly sales fell by 17.7% from 487.74 million ringgit Malaysia to 401.43 million ringgit Malaysia. IOI Properties Group said that during the shutdown, sales and construction are not considered to be essential business and government offices are also not allowed to be open. In particular, their revenue fell 90% to 284.1 million ringgit Malaysia and operating profit fell 29% to 85.5 million ringgit Malaysia in the property development segment. While in the real estate investment segment, its revenue also dropped by 9% to 80.9 million ringgit Malaysia and its operating profit dropped by 22% to 40.1 million ringgit Malaysia. The hospitality and leisure segment also saw its revenue drop by 25% from 46.9 million ringgit Malaysia to 35.4 million ringgit Malaysia because of a drop in occupancy rates. Still, the IOI Properties Group is optimistic about the long-term prospect of its project because their properties are in good locations and have a good infrastructure and facilities network. IOI Properties Group delivering a sustainable and resilient recovery is the next topic. In Q1 for year 2023, IOI Properties Group made 691.5 million ringgit Malaysia in sales, which is a 60% increase from the same quarter in year 2022. The IOI Properties Group got off to a good start because all of its business segment did better, but the hospitality and leisure segment did especially well, with revenue going up by more than 400%. The IOI Properties Group made 529.9 million ringgit Malaysia from its real estate development business, which is a 46% increase from the same quarter last year. This was because Malaysians' operation contribute more to sales, even though inflationary pressures and problems with the global supply chain were hurting the real estate business. The IOI Properties Group real estate investment segment brought in 110 million ringgit Malaysia more in revenue, which is an 86% increase from the last quarter. The low base effect in Q1 in 2022 is the main reason why financial performance has improved so much. Compared to the last quarter, the hospitality and leisure segment of the IOI Properties Group brought in 48.7 million ringgit Malaysia more in revenue, up from 7.6 million ringgit Malaysia. This better performance is due to the fact that domestic tourism has stayed strong, which has helped the hospitality industry slowly get back on its feet. The steady recovery of our country's economy is still being helped by the full reopening of the economy and international borders, as well as by better domestic demand, the job market, and income levels. Even so, doing business around the world is still hard because there are many unknowns such as rising costs, tightened financial condition, and geopolitical tensions. To deal with this problem in the IOI Properties Group's property development business, IOI Properties Group will focus on offering products that fit with the government's new plans.
A legacy begins with a dream, passion and tenacity to make it come true.
The history of Sunway started here. It was a tin mine before. It became a wasteland where nothing grows, plenty of deep holes, no nutrient in the soil. It was a great challenge.
But we had a vision to rehabilitate the wasteland into a wonderland. With courage, purpose and commitment. With bricks, mortar and steel. Through months, years and decades, our city rose from the depths of abandoned craters. Cornerstones laid became milestones to celebrate. And ideas on paper became landmarks to admire. We did not stop there. We also built for our nation. But we are so much more than physical structures. Here, future generations are nurtured and knowledge is shared. Beginnings are cherished and lives are enhanced. Where one can connect with one another in the quality time spent with loved ones. Where excitement and adventures await. Wondrous discoveries extend an open invitation. It is a place of first-class service, and blissful peace of mind. We grew from strength to strength, creating a sustainable environment and thriving communities. Through our commitment to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and becoming a model corporation for sustainable development in Asia.
I'm putting a lot of effort to educate, give good experiences, to lead good young talent, to build a better world for all of us.
One man's aspiration has now become an inspiration for all of us. At Sunway, we do well by doing good.
This is our pledge. Today Sunway, tomorrow the world.
Sunway Group is a big company that offers services to people all over the world. The main office of Sunway Group is in Subang Jaya, which is in the Petaling district of Selangor, Malaysia. Sunway Group has businesses not only in Malaysia, but also places like Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand and Australia, where it has grown over the years. Tan Sri Datuk Dr. Jeffrey Chia started Sunway Group and is now its chairman. Sunway has become a conglomerate under his leadership. Its main businesses are in real estate, construction, education and healthcare. Dr. Jeffrey Chia turned an area that was ruined by tin mining into Sunway City, which is now a place of business, recreation and education. These businesses are in areas like property development, property investment, real estate investment trust, leisure, hospitality, construction, trading and manufacturing, quarry building materials and healthcare. Most of the business are related to each other, and the way they work together helps Sunway Group stay competitive. Since it was founded more than 14 years ago, the Sunway brand has been associated with some of Malaysia's most iconic infrastructure and other great achievements. Sunway play an important role in building the country, and it still makes important contribution to the country's social and economic growth. These include creating job and wealth, transferring technology, building local value chains, and giving people chances to start their own businesses, and meeting the country's housing need. Sunway's business unit have helped it grow in Asia and the United Kingdom. The group has a strong desire and goal to reach 70 Sing dollar to make the world more sustainable with a focus on environmental and social performance.
Liquidity ratio measure a company's ability to pay debt obligation and in margins of safety through the calculation of metrics including the current ratio and the quick ratio. The current ratio measures a company's ability to pay off its current liabilities, payable within 1 year, with its total current assets such as cash, account receivable, and inventories. Based on the graph, the amount of current ratio in 2021 reached the highest ratio, 1.19, and the lowest is in 2020, which is 0.89. A higher current ratio is preferable because it indicates that the company can pay its short-term liabilities efficiently and may indicate that the company is not utilizing its current asset efficiently. The higher the ratio, the better your chance of paying off your debt. If your current ratio is low, it indicates that you will have difficulty paying your current debt and liabilities. A current ratio of 2 or higher is generally considered good, and anything less than 2 is cause for concern. As a result, the Sunway Group must improve their current ratio as the highest ratio has yet to reach 2. The quick ratio measures a company's ability to meet its short-term obligation with its most liquid asset and therefore excludes inventories from its current asset. Based on the graph, the amount of current ratio in 2017 reached the highest ratio 1.05 and the lowest is in 2020, which is 0.62. A higher quick ratio is preferable because it indicates that the company can pay its short-term liabilities efficiently and may indicate that the company is not utilizing its current asset efficiently. As a result, an investor, you should aim for a ratio that is greater or equal to 1. A ratio of 1 or more shows your company has enough liquid assets to meet its short-term obligation. As a result, the Sunway Group must improve their quick ratio as only in 2017 has risk ratio that is greater than 1. A solvency ratio is a key metric used by prospective business lender to assess an enterprise's ability to meet its long-term debt obligation. A solvency ratio determines whether a company's cash flow is sufficient to cover its long-term liability and thus serve as a measure of its financial health. I would like to go over the liabilities to asset ratio and debt to equity ratio. The liabilities to asset ratio measure the proportion of companies' assets that are financed by debt. According to the graph above, Sunway Group's liability to asset in 2021 reached the lowest ratio at 47.69%, while in 2017 has the highest ratio, 58%. Therefore, it indicating that if the ratio is less than 50%, the majority of the company's assets are financed through equity. If the ratio exceeds 50%, the majority of the company's assets are financed through debt. The lower the ratio, the lower the risk associated with the company's operation. As a result, the Sunway Group must improve their liabilities to asset ratio, as the lowest ratio also almost exceeds 50%. The debt to equity ratio is a financial ratio indicating the relative proportion of shareholders' equity and debt used to finance a company's asset. According to the graph above, Sunway Group's debt to equity ratio in 2021 reached the lowest ratio at 91.16%, while in 2017 has the highest ratio, 138.09%. Therefore, it's indicating that a higher debt to equity ratio indicating that a company has a higher debt, while a lower debt to equity ratio signals fewer debts. Generally, a good debt to equity ratio is less than 100%, while a risky debt to equity ratio is greater than 200%. As a result, the Sunway Group must improve their debt to equity ratio as only the lowest ratio do not exceed than 100%.
There are three ratios in the profitability ratios for the Sunway Group that I want to present. First is return on asset ratios. This is a metric that indicates a company's profitability in relation to its total assets. Return on assets, or ROA, can be used by management, analysts, and investors to determine whether a company used its asset efficiently to generate a profit. The graph shows that the present ratio peaked in 2017 at 3.63% and is expected to fall to its lowest point, 1.39%, in 2021. If a company has a high return on investment, then it is successful because it can generate more profit with the same amount of capital. A higher return on asset indicates greater assets efficiency. If a company's return on asset is low, it signifies it could do a better job of managing its financial sheet to maximize earning. If the company's current ratio is between 1.2 and 2, it suggests its short-term assets are 2 times larger than its short-term liabilities. Therefore, Sunway Group's current ratio is smaller than 2, indicating a lower liquidity position. The second ratio is return on equity, which also known as ROE, is a measure of a company's financial performance that is determined by dividing net income by the total amount of stock held by shareholders. According to the graph, the quantity of current ratio in 2017 reached its peak level 8.63% and its lowest level, which is 2.04%, will not be reached until 2020. It is a company's advantage to have a high return on equity percentage. When the proportion is larger, it shows that a corporation is more successful at generating profit from the assets it already possesses. In a similar vein, a company that over the course of its existence shows rises in its ROE is almost certainly becoming more effective. Lastly is the net profit margin, often known as the net margin. Is a measurement of the amount of net income or profit generated as a percentage of total revenue. It is the proportion of an organization's or business segment's net profit to its total revenue. According to the graph, the quantity of current ratio in 2019 will reach its greatest ratio ever, which is 17.50%. The ratio will be at its lowest in 2021 when it will be 9.35%. When a company has a large net profit margin, it indicates that the company can keep its costs under control and or sell its product or services at prices that are much higher than those costs. If a corporation has a low net profit margin, this indicates that they have an inefficient cost structure and or weak pricing technique. The profit margin ratio should be used by investors as an overall measure of the performance of the company's profitability, and investors should begin further in-depth investigation into the source of an increase or drop in the company's profitability as appropriate. As a consequence of this, Sunway Group possesses a big positive current ratio, given that the entire current ratio is greater than 10% except for the year 2021.
Next, I would like to explain details about horizontal analysis of Sunway Berhad. Let's jump into the first item noted in horizontal analysis, which is asset. As we can see, the total period of time taken in Sunway Berhad are 5 years, which is started in 2017 until 2021. During the time period, the lowest amount record are in 2020, which is only negative 2 million, and the highest are in 2021, where total amount of assets are 3 million. In 2020, negative 10.37% are the lowest value, while 18.83% in 2021 are the highest. Next is liabilities. Using the same formula as the asset, the total liabilities in 2020 are the lowest and 2021 are the third highest, which is negative 2 million and 1 million respectively. The percentage amount in 2020 is negative 19.41% and in 2021 are 10.94%. Lastly is equity, where the highest total equity and liabilities and the total percentage recorded are in 2021, where the amount is 3963224 and 18.76% respectively. Meanwhile, the lowest value recorded is in 2020, which is the total equity value is negative 2 million and its percentage is negative 10.33%. Next, let's go through the vertical analysis of Sunway Berhad. In order to see the problem faced by Sunway Group in 2019, we must analyze its comprehensive income statement for the past 5 years time period. The company's sales remained constant for the first 2 years until it started to drop slightly on year 3. The net income also dropped slightly on year 3. The value of other income rise from year 2 until year 4 and started to drop on year 5. In vertical analysis, other income in year 5, 171,154 are divided by its current year revenue, and the total percentage is 4.60% will appear on the table for that particular year.
SWOT analysis of Sunway Berhad. First is strength, leadership and capability management team. There is probably nothing more important to business's success than leadership and a good capable management team. A good leader inspires and motivates his team to work together to achieve everyone's goals and resulting in a win-win situation. A good and capable management team will help the company realize its leader's vision and pull through difficult times like the current crisis. Sunway Construction Berhad success as one of the largest construction company in the country is due to the founder's leadership. Tan Sri Dato Sri Dr. Jeffrey Che, as well as its dynamic, dedicated and highly professional management and operational teams. Tan Sri Che is a visionary and hardworking entrepreneur who can inspire and motivate his team to achieve the company's goals and targets. He possesses the characteristic of a good business leader, caring for and being with his employees during business turbulence. He is capable of selecting the right people to carry out the corporation vision. Tan Sri Che's leadership is undeniable, a powerful strength of the company. It is unquestionably a force to be reckoned with a corporation's future development. Next, weaknesses. Lack of international exposure. Soil and Water Conservation Bureau (SWCB) has always been a local construction builder. However, it has only recently entered the Taiwan market by outsourcing manpower to a single international company. It has very little international exposure in terms of international experience, global networking, and ties to global contractors. Because the construction industry has become a global entity, such as prerequisites and global entrance qualification, and those who lack them will undoubtedly be a competitive disadvantage. Opportunities. Government Fund Kickstart Project. Following the failure of the International Monetary Fund (IMF) recommended measure to save the Malaysian economy from the 1997 financial crisis, the Malaysian government formed the National Economic Action Council (NEACI) to assess the situation independently and examine wars in order to bring the economy back up to speed. Among the various measures, the National Entrepreneurs and Innovation Program (NEIP) recommended that the government continue to invest in civil work and infrastructure development. Soil and Water Conservation Bureau (SWCB) will investigate opportunity in which the government will initiate more infrastructure and property construction projects. Lastly, trades, guards, and protection. Many markets experience protectionist sentiments when construction projects are visible. Technical specifications and standards, which are developed to ensure quality products and processes, are the most convenient device. Alternative licensing legislation may state that a contractor will be issued a contractor's license only if he can demonstrate an adequate level of local trade record. The effect of protectionist barrier can be mitigated by forming a strategy alliance locally through a joint venture or subcontracting arrangement, or simply by purchasing a vehicle for an overseas operation.
Next, I will explain about the latest info for Sunway Group. The most recent information I could find about the Sunway Group was about investors. With a market capitalization of about 8.3 billion ringgit Malaysia, Sunway Group is one of the biggest property groups in Malaysia. This shows that Sunway Group is one of Malaysia's best property and construction companies. Next, the was set up to grow. Nearly 3,285 acres of land in multiple strategic locations make up the land bank, which has a potential GDV of about 59.3 billion ringgit Malaysia. With 1,712 acres of land, Sunway Group is also one of the largest listed landowner in Iskandar, Malaysia. while in Penang, they has 186 acres and Klang Valley also has 985 acres. This company is focusing on a regional strategy and its footprint in Singapore and China is growing all the time. This also has something to do with the public's power as users. Due to inflation, customers are more likely to feel pressure from rising costs of living, which can make them buy less, switch to cheaper brands or stores, or put off big purchases. Sunway Group and other businesses have to deal with this problem. This is because the country's inflation rate has also gone up since the COVID-19 pandemic began in early of 2020. Due to such problems, Sunway Groups issued some necessary consumers' expectation for every business to ensure consistent growth. The first one is revisit social media. Even though social shopping is becoming more popular in the US, it is also becoming more common in places like China, where members of social networks have made purchases using social channels. As a result of the pandemic, social media retailers need to reach out to a new wave of customers who care more about their health than before. Sunway Mall's General Manager of Marketing and Business Innovations, Lu Hoi Tin, explains why stores that have an online presence will do well in this market. In fact, the rise of digital and social media content shows that people are changing the way they use media. After the pandemic, people are more worried about their health and want to know more. They will spend more time doing research and then make their decision based on what they have learned, she said. Second is making sure that shopping online is easy. In short, retailers should pay attention to the omni-channel experience. Lu said, the change from a global pandemic to a worldwide endemic has also brought back the shopping experience, which is the need to taste, touch, and experience products. Hybrid consumerism, where convenience and experience are king, has become the new norm. One way to do this is to advertise items that are only available online in their physical stores. Another way is to send out emails marketing campaigns with coupons that can only be used in person. The next step is to highlight and change the value of your product. Blockage in the supply chain. The price of gas and shipping has gone up, rise the cost of labor. All of the above will determine the final price of the product, which leaves consumers with no other choice but to compare products extensively before buying them and look for better value in every purchase. Lu tells us about this different point of view. Now, people are focusing more on what they need and less on what they want. Consumers are willing to try new brands and alternatives, so there is always an advantage in a crisis, and new brands that offer good value have an advantage.
The numbers within both firms indicate that IOI Properties is the better investment option. Therefore, that's why it's on the list. Sunway Berhad, on the other hand, isn't even in the running. Ratio analysis calculation, corporate advantages, and other factors all point to IOI Properties as a safer investment option. Firstly, the liquidity ratio indicates that IOI is quite liquid. In terms of total current ratio, IOI Property are ahead of Sunway Berhad. The current ratio measures of an organization capacity to meet its present financial obligation with its current assets and liabilities. In other words, IOI Properties are in a more stable financial situation because of the larger ratio. Even when taking into account only current obligation and not inventories, IOI's quick ratio indicates that the company has sufficient liquidity. When compared to Sunway Group, IOI Properties has a smaller percentage of debt to equity ratio, which indicates that the company is in a better financial position. When the ratio is high, it indicates that a company has a greater amount of debts. on its books, which typically indicates a greater risk of going into default. If the firm had to be liquidated for some reason, the value of the II suggests that the equity would be sufficient to cover debts that are owed by the company. Because II property has a lesser debt than Sunway Berhad does, the calculation and information that were made are sufficient to demonstrate that II property is the best company with which to invest. II property is the best company to invest with. Company profitability should exceed 1.5%. The global industrial average is 2%, but a decent net income is 5%. II calculates return on assets using average total assets due to purchasing. II earned 2.58% per ringgit invested in asset in 5 years. II properties outperform Sunway Group in investment returns. Also, it maximizes profits with its assets. Sunway Group outperform II properties. The company is too risky, poorly managed, or has more costs than diminish its operating profit margin. II should use several sources to analyze and value the firm because of a higher ROE shows how equity capital generates income and growth. In 5 years of IUI's net profit margin is 34.63%, surpassing Sunway Group. IUI properties made 35 cents each ringgit sold. IUI properties make enough profit after expenses.
I will now end this presentation with the conclusions. Following the completion of this analysis, the conclusion is that IOI Properties Group is a better organization than Sunway Group. This is due to the fact that a calculation of 3 ratios, which is the liquidity ratios, the solvency ratios, and the profitability ratio that has been carried out, and also based on problem-solving methods that can increase their sales again after it collapsed for a while due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The IOI Properties Group have a better result in both ratios. In the horizontal analysis also showed that the total of asset is increased from 7.76% in 2017 to 18.83% in 2021, while the total of equity and liabilities is also increasing from 7.76% in 2017 to 18.76% in 2021. IOI Properties Group's net income grew from 95.78% in 2017 to 97.88% in 2021, according to the vertical analysis, which shows that this growth occurred. Even in 2020, it declined as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Nevertheless, IOI Properties Group was able to improve its net income once more in 2021. This demonstrates that they have the finest method to tackle the challenge they experience when dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. That's all for our group presentation. Thank you.